We just towed 7,000 pounds with this 2022 Ford F-150 Lightning all-electric pickup truck and got miles of range. Miles.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that we got miles of range on a full charge.
Miles is ridiculous.
Like, good ridiculous or bad ridiculous?
Well, you didn't think we'd give that away in the intro of this video, did you, Chad? For that, plus a whole lot more, you're gonna have to keep watching. Plus, you should really like and subscribe.
All right, Ben, let's rewind this video.
The Lightning here is a game changer of a pickup truck. It's all electric and in many ways actually drives better than combustion-powered F-150s. But there's a hitch. Literally, this thing can tow quite well actually, but the question on everyone's mind is when you are dragging a trailer, how far can it go?
This Lariat extended range is rated by the EPA for 320 miles. However, when you factor in the aerodynamics of the trailer, plus its weight, we expect that number to drop quite significantly.
Like what, maybe to 310?
Craig, no.
Oh. Well, you get the idea. We're going to hook a trailer up to this Lightning and do our best to max it out. And since up until this point, most EVs have been of the passenger vehicle variety, we figured a car hauler would be the most poetic option. And as payload, a Tesla Model 3. Perhaps you've heard of it. Anyway, the battery is full, the weather is beautiful, although very hot. What is the game plan for today, Chad, other than avoiding heat stroke?
Well, Craig, we're gonna put this truck to the test. We're gonna see how far it can actually tow a 7,000 pound trailer. Additionally, we're going to calculate the miles per kilowatt hour while towing as well as unloaded. And as an added bonus, we're going to stop at an Electrify America charging station and perform our EV Pulse charging challenge, taking the truck from nearly 0% all the way up to 100% to see how long it takes, how much electricity it takes. Plus, we're going to highlight some of the challenges that you may encounter while towing on a road trip.
There is a lot to cover today, and unfortunately we don't have a lot of time. So for a full overview of the F-150 Lightning here, make sure you check out our first drive review by hitting the link above or in the description box down below. As Chad mentioned, we're evaluating a Lariat model with the big 131 kilowatt hour battery and the max tow package. Accordingly, we have a full 320 miles of range without a trailer hooked up and a 10,000 pound tow rating. Now, including $16.95 in destination fees, this regal rig stickers for a princely $80,739. And all I can say is, good things ain't cheap.
And neither are insurance deductibles, which is why you just want to start off making sure that your load is safe before you take off. One of the first things that you should check is to make sure that the brake lights work on the trailer. Hit it, Craig! Now, if you don't have a Craig with you, the Ford Pass app will actually let you remotely do a light check, so you don't have to have somebody inside the truck. With one of these car haulers, the most important thing is to make sure the car is secured to the trailer. This U-Haul trailer that we rented comes with some very nice tie-down straps that attach to both the driver and passenger front wheel, and there's an additional safety chain underneath that attaches to the frame in case the straps fail. Speaking of failures, if for some reason the connection to the truck were to fail, you want to make sure that you have the trailer safety chains attached, and if there's enough slack, make sure that they're crossed over. It's important to be able to get the tongue weight and load balance of the trailer correct while you're towing, and the truck has actually built-in onboard scales and a setup process that can walk you through that. Ideally, you want the tongue weight of the trailer to be about 10% of the whole weight of the trailer.
Up here in the comfortable air-conditioned cab, we have to configure the truck for the trailer that we are towing, because obviously if you're dragging a couple jet skis, it's going to be totally different than some gigantic camper. And to do that, Ford has made it very easy. Just hit the truck icon at the top of the screen, then you go down to towing, then you say add a trailer. Now you can enter the name of the trailer. We're going to do Trug with 2 G's because everybody loves Trugs. Now you're going to set up a bunch of different configurations for the particular trailer that you've got. We've got brake type, brake effort, the length of the trailer. I think this one's about 20 feet long. The width is about 7, height is about 7. Weight, we're going to revise that downward to 7,000 pounds. And then it gives you a nice summary of everything. Now that beep you just heard is the truck lowering its estimated driving range because it's taking into account the weight and the size of the trailer that you are towing. Next, we can go through a connection checklist. This is a rundown of all of the stuff that Chad just talked about. This is a good reminder. You want to double or triple check your connections and everything before you hit the road because safety is paramount, and this is a nice visual way of doing that. You can see, make sure your ball is attached to the hitch appropriately and the trailer is on there. Make sure your connections are good, safety chains, etc. Again, safety is very important while towing, and Ford wants to make sure you've got everything set up correctly. And with all of that out of the way, it's time to hit the road. So buckle up and settle in. We've got a DC fast charger set as a destination in the navigation system, and along the way, we're going to burn off some range, so to speak, in order to find out how efficient this truck is, and then we'll determine how well it juices up. There's a lot coming, including a comprehensive analysis of this truck's charging curve, so don't click away. But do feel free to click subscribe if you want to see more range tests and charging challenges like this one. Hitting like tells YouTube to show this video to other viewers so we can continue to make more great content. Thanks. So this is not my first experience with the F-150 Lightning, though it is the first time I've driven this truck extensively, and it is the first time that I have towed with it. Chad, you attended the first drive event. You've got a lot more seat time in it than I do. Before we get to some of my opinions, what's your take?
My biggest takeaway is actually how much like a normal F-150 this truck is. Yes, it's powered differently, and there's some benefits that we're going to talk about as we chat here and also later in the video. But really, at the end of the day, the truck looks like an F-150, the interior is straight up F-150, and it drives like an F-150. So it's everything that I think that a normal truck buyer would expect, just it's powered by electricity.
It's that familiar F-150 experience.
It's the F-150 of electric pickup trucks.
There you go. That's the tagline for Ford. Done. Anyway, we've got the big battery pack in this truck, the 131 kilowatt hour unit. That gets you 580 horsepower. Lower end versions with the smaller 98 kilowatt hour pack, they have only 452. I mean, I'm not so sure that's much of a privation, but it is a bit less than what we have here. And that's basically because of how quickly the battery can send energy to the motor. So that's kind of what the difference is. Because either way, you get a lot of torque.
Yeah, 775 foot-pounds of it, which I think,
Yes.
last time I checked, is all of the torque in the known universe.
It is, you're never wanting for torque. You just roll on the throttle and this thing absolutely boogies. Doesn't matter what's behind you either. Like, it just goes. It goes.
I think that you talk a little bit about battery power and why that's different. Most people that are buying a Lightning, especially if they are going to tow with it, are probably going to go with the larger battery pack. I would suggest if you're watching this and you're like, well, should I get the standard battery pack or the longer battery pack? Because maybe I don't care as much about towing, even though obviously we're doing a towing test here. This is more power than you're going to need. And the torque is really where you notice the off-the-line performance, the ability to pick up and go with the trailer. Like it's the torque is really what you care about here.
Absolutely.
And both versions of that deliver it. So you don't get the battery for the power, get the battery for the extra range.
Absolutely. So that mountain of torque, those 775 pound-feet, gets sent to the pavement through 2 electric motors. So this truck comes standard with 4-wheel drive, though you can also get an available locking rear differential, which we don't really need today on these dry roads, but in wintertime it might be useful, or if you've got a boat on a launch and it's sort of slippery, could really come in handy there.
I think the big point of the locking rear differential is, I mean, truck drivers need it. There are definitely situations where you want that. But what I think is interesting from the electric truck is, yes, there's a motor in the back, but there is a traditional sort of axle setup. So there can be a real mechanical, I mean, it's electronically controlled, but there can be a real mechanical differential in the back. And it's not all just controlled by electric motor or brake application. It's a real differential. It's a real locking differential, just like you would expect with a normal gas truck.
You mentioned the rear end a moment ago. Independent suspension at both ends of this truck. And that makes it super stable as a towing rig. It also provides a better ride in everyday driving because, like on washboard surfaces, the back end's never gonna skitter around. It's never gonna step out.
One of the things that I think that you definitely notice when driving is, with the independent rear suspension and no load, is if you're ever in a normal pickup truck, especially one with leaf springs and a solid rear axle, you'll notice like when you go over bumps, like a washboard kind of bump, the bed will actually you can actually watch the bed kind of shimmy in the rear view mirror. You don't notice that in this truck because that's the suspension working.
So we've got all the torque in the universe.
All of it.
We've got an independent rear suspension, and we have a proven F-150 platform. All of those elements make this one of the best towing rigs I think you can get anywhere today.
I mean, in half-ton trucks especially, this is the best tow truck there is. Yes, as we're testing, you're not going to get the same amount of range, and obviously stay tuned because we're going to talk more about what our results are. But if you are driving, I don't know, less than, let's say, 100 miles when you tow, don't get any other half-ton. This is the half-ton to get. In the land of half-tons, this truck is fantastic. And I think that even if you aren't towing loads quite this heavy, and you might think, oh, well, maybe I want a mid-sized truck. Outside of the Ridgeline and in compact truck with the Maverick, I haven't driven a pickup truck this comfortable. They tend to not be this comfortable to ride.
No, I mean, the Ram is a damn good truck.
It is.
With either the air suspension or the rear coil springs.
Yes.
It's a very nice truck, but it's still a live axle.
It still is.
And it's not quite as planted as the Lightning here.
Yeah.
This is a Lariat trim, so that's the second highest of the four that Ford offers.
It is.
And the interior is very nice, although there are some less than perfect areas, I think. Some of the plastics on the dashboard I don't care for. This is sort of like a blue jean-like material here.
Which
it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it.
I've talked to some people who actually really like that kind of blue jean texture. I'm a little hit or miss on it. In the Lariat's the highest trim that you can get with the full 320 miles of range. If you do go up to a Platinum, because there's a little bit extra standard equipment and stuff in there, that truck is heavier, so you lose 20 miles of range. So you're only EPA rated at 300 miles in that truck, where you get the 320 miles total range out of this. Kind of glancing over the instrument cluster just now, Craig, we're about 2/3 through the amount of driving that we wanted to do today, just because there's a lot of filming. And filming takes a lot of driving. I don't know if you guys know.
They don't know, probably.
Probably not.
Stay in school, kids. Don't do video work.
Don't do YouTube.
Don't do it.
Get a real job.
Yes.
But according to the range indicator, it looks like we've used about 2/3 of our batteries. So we're right on par, I think, with what we were expecting. We've got some more testing we need to do, but the truck's really delivering kind of what we expected. No real surprises, which shouldn't be surprising, but kind of is, because this is a totally new vehicle with a totally new type of powertrain. But as I alluded to earlier, at the end of this video, we're going to show you a couple of different numbers in terms of miles per kilowatt hour, how that all is going to play into the overall range of the vehicle. What we're going to do is, we are driving the truck right now loaded. We're going to give you a miles per kilowatt number of a combined sort of thing, as well as just highway only. And then we're going to compare that to unloaded, do some math on it, and basically tell you, based on the 131 kilowatt hour battery pack, how far you can get.
Well, we're getting pretty close to running out of juice in this thing, so we're going to have to head on over to our friendly local Electrify America station to replenish this truck's battery pack, and it's going to be a perfect opportunity to conduct our EV Pulse charging challenge to see how well this thing recharges. So here are some of the rules. If you don't really care about the details, feel free to skip ahead, but they are kind of important. First, we deplete a vehicle's battery to between 5 and 10%, a range where motorists on a trip would want to juice up. We do this by driving on the highway for at least 30 minutes to make sure the battery pack is nice and warm for optimal charging. With sunny skies and temps around 90 degrees Fahrenheit in northern Ohio, conditions have been favorable today. Next, we find a DC fast charger that delivers at least as many kilowatts of power as the vehicle can accept, and we plug it in. Along the way, we monitor the progress all the way to 100% so we can analyze the full charging curve, though in normal use, drivers will typically want to stop at about 80% because the charging rate dramatically slows after that point. While towing with the Lightning or any electric vehicle, however, you're probably going to want the battery fully juiced because range is a major concern. And finally, DC fast charging is best used on long trips. If you own an EV, most of the time you'll want to juice up at home using a slower but more convenient and affordable Level 2 charger. What a day, but hey, we made it, Chad. We're here at the charger. So obviously this is a major challenge if you are towing with an electric truck. We were lazy and left the trailer hooked up. Don't be like us. Disconnect it, park it off to the side so you're not blocking any pathways in the parking lot here. It's pretty quiet, it's a little bit late, so we're taking a liberty and just leaving it connected. But we made it here. We have a 2% state of charge in the battery, about 4 miles of range left. What's next? What's this truck going to accept, Chad?
Well, we parked at an Electrify America 350 kilowatt station, which should far exceed the maximum charge rate of the truck. We expect that to peak somewhere around 150 kilowatts, maybe a little bit higher. And we should be here for hopefully to that 80% point in a little less than an hour. That last 20%, as you know, always takes a little bit more time.
Oh, yes.
So I'm hoping that we'll be out of here in an hour and a half to maybe an hour and 45 minutes. But until we try it for ourselves, we don't know.
What are we waiting for? Let's get started.
Let's do it.
All right, we are done driving, the battery's fully charged, and we've crunched all the numbers. It's finally time to share the results of our testing. Looking at how quickly the F-150 Lightning absorbs energy, we can see that when starting with a 2% state of charge, the truck pulled in juice at a rate of around 2 kilowatts, which is, basically nothing. But within 2 minutes, that number had ramped up, hitting 151 kilowatts with the battery at 7%. After that, the rate stayed north of 150 kilowatts until the 20% mark when it stepped down. The peak rate we saw was 155 kilowatts, which is 5 more than the Lightning is rated to handle. Well done, Ford. Well done. This truck's charging curve is remarkable in its unremarkableness. Wait, is that a word? Aside from a little jump at 26%, the curve is smooth and consistent. From roughly 30% to 70%, the rate hovered right around 120 kilowatts. Just look at how flat that line is. After 70%, the charging rate dropped again as the battery got closer to being fully recharged. When the Lightning hit 100%, it was still absorbing juice at a rate of 9 kilowatts, which is pretty impressive. Switching charts, let's see how fast you can expect to regain miles as you wait at the charger. In all, this Lightning spent 2 hours and 17 minutes hooked to that 350 kilowatt charger, which delivered 137.6 kilowatt hours of electricity, more than the truck's advertised usable capacity of 131 kilowatts. That's a lot of juice, like a lot, which is why the charging took so long, even though the rate was consistently very good. Dividing that 137.6 kilowatt hour total by 137, the charging time in minutes, reveals that the Lightning absorbed about 1 kilowatt hour of juice per minute. Further analyzing the data, it took Ford about 46 minutes to go from a 10% state of charge to 80%, which isn't too shabby considering how enormous the battery is. Using this truck's EPA estimated range of 320 miles, it took around 16 minutes for the battery to hit 100 miles worth of range. 150 miles took 26 minutes, 200 required 37 minutes, 250 was ours in 48, and we got to 300 in 83 minutes. Now, of course, those are miles regained when unladen, not with a trailer. Keep watching to see how our car hauler affected the range. All told, this charging session cost us $45.34 with the $4 per month Electrify America membership, which reduced the per kilowatt hour rate to 31 cents. Aside from this truck's amazing performance, spacious interior, and incredible refinement, This right here is the biggest reason some 200,000 people have reserved a Lightning from Ford. It costs so much less to run one of these trucks than a similar gas or diesel-powered pickup. Another remarkable thing is that we had no interruptions or hiccups while charging, which is, frankly, astonishing. In our experience, seamless DC fast charging sessions are the exception, not the norm. Next, let's see how efficient this battery-powered pickup is in real-world driving, first unladen and then with a trailer in tow. Unencumbered by a Tesla, the Lightning got about 2.5 miles per kilowatt hour in mixed use on a blend of expressway and backcountry roads. Naturally, on the highway, that number dropped slightly to about 2.3 miles per kilowatt hour, though that is still not too shabby. As for range, using those numbers and multiplying by 131 kilowatt hours, the usable size of this truck's battery pack, results in an estimated maximum range of nearly 328 miles with a full battery in combined use. On the highway, where speeds are faster, the maximum range was a little bit less, about 301 miles. But now for the million-dollar question. What happened to the range when we hooked a trailer to the Lightning's hitch? Well, honestly, not as much as expected. In combined use, with about 7,000 pounds in tow, the truck managed 1.5 miles per kilowatt hour. On the expressway, at a consistent speed of about 65 miles per hour, that figure barely dropped, falling by just 1/10 to 1.4 miles per kilowatt hour. So, doing the same math again reveals that we had just shy of 197 miles of range in mixed driving while towing. On the highway, that number dropped to about 183, which is much less of a drop than I would have thought. We assumed the EPA range of 320 would at least get cut in half while trailering, but that wasn't the case. We did significantly better than other people that have towed with the Lightning. One big-name publication that starts with an M and ends in Otertrend didn't even get 100 miles on a charge. As always, your mileage will vary, so plan accordingly. For us, the weather was good, and the trailer we dragged pretty aerodynamic, especially compared to a big brick-like camper. Also, the roads in northern Ohio, where we did our testing, are flatter than a granite countertop, so if you're towing in hilly terrain, expect the range to take a greater hit. Aside from depleting the truck's range, that extensive testing also ate up our available daylight hours, so Chad and I reconvened at a different time to wrap things up. Let's get out that VCR remote once again and skip ahead. Well, that sure was a lot of numbers and charts, but Chad, you've covered the truck business for quite a while now. What did we learn today?
Well, Craig, we learned that the Lightning is a very capable tow rig, and with 775 foot-pounds of torque, which is more than Raptor R, it behaves a lot like a diesel, which I think a lot of folks will appreciate when towing. Now, the downside is, of course, you do lose some range while you're towing, which is expected. Ultimately, our recommendation is this. If you're towing just a couple of times a year, or once or twice a month, you're probably not going to mind the occasional stopping to charge on a longer trip. If you are towing more than that, or you're just concerned about that range, Ford will sell you a complete lineup of F-150s that are gas-powered. We're particularly fond of the Power Boost Hybrid, which gives you the best of both worlds in terms of fuel economy as well as towing performance.
Absolutely, and that Power Boost is going to perform better in cold weather because the Lightning's battery and its range, they're going to go down even further if it's 0 degrees Fahrenheit out. So if you're trying to get your snowmobiles up to the ski cabin and it's frigid outside, you're probably going to be better served by that Power Boost. But that's not a problem we have today. It is hotter than the blazes of hellfire and damnation, and I am tired of roasting in the sun, so I am done. I'm getting out of here.
Like and subscribe.